The studio lights blazed down like a spotlight on a gladiator's arena as John Kennedy stormed off the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live, his face a storm of fury and hurt, the echo of his final words, "You don't get to mock my family's legacy," hanging in the air like a thunderclap. The audience gasped, phones whipped out to capture the chaos, and the crew froze, unsure whether to intervene or let the moment burn itself out. It was a clash no one saw coming, a collision of pride, pain, and principle that would unravel live on national television, leaving scars deeper than the surface drama suggested. For John, a man carrying the weight of a legendary name, this wasn't just a spat with a late-night host. It was a battle for dignity, a fight to reclaim a narrative hijacked by jokes and jabs. John Kennedy wasn't your typical guest. A descendant of the iconic political dynasty, he had spent years dodging the spotlight, preferring the quiet halls of advocacy over the glitz of Hollywood. But tonight, September 1, 2025, he'd agreed to appear to promote his new initiative, a foundation aimed at mental health support for families of public figures, inspired by the personal toll his family's history had taken. He arrived with a mix of nerves and resolve, clutching a worn photo of his uncle, JFK, as a talisman against the unfamiliar terrain of late-night TV. Jimmy Kimmel, with his trademark smirk and quick wit, greeted him warmly at first, the banter flowing as they discussed the foundation's mission. The audience chuckled at Jimmy's light-hearted quips, and for a moment, John felt the tension ease. But then came the pivot, a throwaway line about the Kennedy curse being great material for a comedy special. The words hit John like a punch to the gut. Years of watching his family dissected by tabloids, the assassinations of his uncles, the struggles of his cousins, all reduced to a punchline. His jaw tightened, his hands clenched around the photo, and before he could stop himself, he leaned forward, his voice low but trembling with emotion. "You think this is funny? My family bled for this country, and you're turning it into a joke." The studio fell silent, the laughter dying mid-breath. Jimmy, caught off guard, tried to recover with a nervous laugh and a quip about not meaning any harm, but the damage was done. John's eyes flashed with a mix of grief and anger as he stood, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I'm done here," he said, his voice breaking as he turned to leave, the audience murmuring in shock. Behind the scenes, the fallout was immediate. Producers scrambled to cut to commercial, but not before the internet exploded with clips of the walk-off. John retreated to a green room, his hands shaking as he stared at the photo, the weight of his family's legacy pressing down harder than ever. He wasn't just fighting Jimmy, he was fighting the narrative that had defined him since birth, a narrative of tragedy and scandal that overshadowed his efforts to do good. Meanwhile, Jimmy sat at his desk, the bravado fading as he realized the depth of the wound he'd unintentionally reopened. He'd always prided himself on pushing boundaries, but this felt different, personal, raw. His producer, a seasoned woman named Claire who'd seen every kind of drama, pulled him aside. "You crossed a line," she said bluntly. "Fix it, or this could haunt you." The next day, the media frenzy was relentless. Headlines screamed, "Kennedy versus Kimmel." The blowout heard round the world, and social media split into camps, some defending John's outrage, others calling him oversensitive. John holed up in his hotel, wrestling with whether to double down or let it go. He thought of his late mother, who'd taught him resilience through her own public battles, and his sister, who'd struggled with addiction under the relentless glare of fame. This foundation was his way to honor them, to break the cycle of pain. But now, it felt tainted. On the other side, Jimmy faced his own reckoning. He watched the clip again, seeing the hurt in John's eyes, and felt a pang of guilt. Late-night comedy was his craft, but he knew empathy was part of it too. Claire pushed him to reach out, suggesting a live apology on the next show. The resolution came slowly, a dance of pride and humility. John, after a sleepless night, agreed to a phone call with Jimmy, facilitated by Claire. The conversation was awkward at first, both men stumbling over apologies and explanations. Jimmy admitted his joke was poorly timed, rooted in ignorance rather than malice. John, softening, shared a glimpse of his family's untold story, the nights his mother cried over lost siblings, the pressure to live up to a myth. Tears welled in his eyes as he spoke, and Jimmy, uncharacteristically quiet, listened. They agreed to a second appearance, not as host and guest, but as two men seeking common ground. The next night, with the audience hushed, Jimmy opened with a sincere apology, acknowledging the Kennedy family's sacrifices. John joined him, his voice steady but emotional, explaining his mission and inviting Jimmy to visit the foundation. The segment ended with a standing ovation, a rare moment of unity on a stage built for laughs. Over the weeks that followed, the foundation gained unprecedented support, donations pouring in as people connected with John's vulnerability. Jimmy, true to his word, visited, and the two forged an unlikely friendship, co-hosting a charity event that raised millions. The clash, once a spectacle, became a catalyst for healing, John's for his family's legacy, Jimmy's for his approach to comedy. As the credits rolled on that initial chaotic episode, the message lingered. Even in conflict, empathy and dialogue can build bridges, turning pain into purpose.